Code monkey, get up, get coffee. Code monkey, go to job. Code monkey, have boring meeting with boring manager Rob. Rob say code monkey very diligent, but his output stink. His code not functional or elegant. What do code monkey think? Code monkey think maybe manager wanna write login page himself. Code monkey not say it out loud. Code monkey not crazy, just proud. Code monkey like Fritos. Code monkey like Tab and Mountain Dew. Code monkey very simple man. Big warm fuzzy secret heart. Code monkey like you. Code monkey like you.
What's new, Dino Dudes? It's me, the Media Raptor, and welcome back to another episode of the Media Raptor Reviews. Oh no, my hat! Before we begin, I want to say a big shout out to Miss Luca Bacino for the awesome new my hat! For the new thumbnail art that will be kind of used in all my upcoming reviews. I really like it. I loved the old one. I just felt like it might be time for a change, to try something new. And yeah, this is really hot. I can't keep it on. I'm sorry. Got this for Halloween. I'm super excited. Anyhow. So yeah, awesome new awesome new title card work and stuff like that. Or whatever you want to call it. New avatar, I guess. So yeah, make sure you go over to her DeviantArt and commission her for some work. She's a great artist. She's really nice. She's fast. She's really talented. And speaking of talent, let's talk about the newest movie based off a Stephen King book, It, Chapter 2. If you remember my review on the first It, you'll know that I thought it was, well, pretty good. Sure, it had some problems. I thought it might be just a little bit overhyped. But overall, I thought it was a good movie. So, I was gonna see the sequel, no matter what. This wasn't a case of, I might catch it when it comes out on DVD or Netflix. This was very much I'm gonna see this. I didn't plan on seeing it opening weekend, but a bunch of my Dino dudes were like, hey, Rap, we're going to see it in theaters. You want to come? And I'm like, okay. So, let me just say, this is probably the most fun I've had being terrified in a long time. And that probably says a lot about the movie. Is the movie as good as the first? Depends on how you want to look at it. I think I actually enjoyed this one more than the first one because this one just kinda went fossils to the wall insane at times. If you're wondering why I'm saying fossils, it's because I know kids watch this and I want to teach them swear words and stuff like that. This movie really is crazy. There were a number of times in the theater when I remember hearing or even screaming, what is going on? And not because the movie was too dark and I couldn't see anything, but because the imagery, the plot points, this movie is a breath of fresh air in all the right ways. The writing is pretty good. I'm pretty disappointed in a couple factors, and I'll talk about those real quick. One, we don't really understand what Pennywise exactly is. Yes, I get he's like this whole ancient deity sort of thing. They actually did talk on that a bit more. I was impressed with how they managed to kind of incorporate some of the more goofier ideas about Pennywise and the turtle and all that into the story without losing the fear factor. But it also kind of seemed like he was a guy at one point who got possessed or made a deal or something, and they never really talk about it. Now, I get not every villain needs to have a huge explanation, but considering how much of the first movie kind of seems to be built around this whole who is he kind of aspect, I was kind of hoping for a bit more of a payoff with the sequel. Another thing, the characters grown up are great. I love these characters still. They're very well written, they're likable. The relationship between Bill and Bev seems kind of awkward and kind of forced, especially because, well, it's clear Ben is the one in love with her and she loves Ben eventually. That's not really a spoiler, it's just there's a couple scenes where it feels kind of like they're trying to force something in to try and make a love triangle, which never really gets addressed or brought up, or there's no real plot hindrance or anything from it. Another thing I want to talk about, and this is kind of a spoiler, but if you know the story, you know this happens. Stanley's death, even with the reason they give later on, felt really tasteless in a way. It just kind of feels like they went like, oh yeah, he was a thing, and then this happened, whatever, we're done, he's gone, bye. And yes, they try and have characters, be emotionally impacted by it, and the acting really does help that, but it just doesn't feel... I don't think it feels as emotional as it should because we don't really know the character that well. He didn't really get a whole lot of screen time or a whole lot of really good development in the first movie, and even in the flashbacks in this one, they don't really give much more. With that being said, though, let's talk about the scares, which is probably why you're here for a horror movie. This is probably one of the first horror movies in a long time. And I mean even compared to the first It, and just most horror movies nowadays, that actually kinda scared me. This and Us are two of the best horror movies I have seen in the past 20 years. Because not only do they have jump scares that feel earned and work, but the psychological, the atmosphere, and just the sheer terror, both body and mind, it is amazing. Now, there are a couple of scenes where, as I mentioned, I was kind of like, what is going on? Partially because they try and mix a bit of humor in with this horror, and most of it works. There are some genuine laugh-out-loud lines in this movie that surprised me, but sometimes when there's a huge, really terrifying scene, and then they kind of crack a joke or something, it kind of takes away some of the tension. Something else I think that does is that this movie swears more than Team America World Police. Now, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, children movies should never have cursing. I'm kind of foul-mouthed around my friends sometimes. That's not a big deal. The issue is, it happens so frequently that it comes across more like an episode of South Park rather than an adult horror movie. And I can understand the kids doing it because they're kids and all kids swear at one point because they think it's cool. And I can kind of get one or two of the adults doing it, but the frequency that it happened just seemed weird. That's a very minor nitpick, and it doesn't really take anything away from the movie. But speaking of the movie, that's what I've been doing this whole time. I'm sorry, I'm bad at transitions. Back to the scares. One thing I have to give major props to this movie for is I've seen a lot of horror movies where they go, are we gonna kill a kid? Is this kid gonna be okay? Yeah, of course they are. We don't have the spine to actually murder a child or even imply that we would. This movie kills a lot of kids. Two of which you don't exactly see on screen, but you kind of do at the same time. So, this is gonna sound weird. Big thumbs up to the movie for actually just straight up going, no, we're gonna do this. This is an R-rated horror movie, you can take it. And with that being said, this movie is not for everyone. But yeah, the atmosphere, the scares, and part of this is done in part to the camera work, and I'll get to that in a minute. But another big part of what makes this movie work so well is the pacing. It's a 2-hour and 45-minute movie, and it moves really fast. Sure, at the beginning it takes a few minutes to kind of reestablish some stuff, but other than that, the movie just kind of starts and keeps on going. It doesn't bother looking back, and it doesn't feel like it's rushing through anything. The only exception of it feeling like it's rushing through something is with Eddie Bauer's escape from the mental institution. But, whatever, it's not that big a deal. And, you know what, I don't want to spoil too much. If I talk more about that, it'll be spoiler territory. So let's move on. The acting is phenomenal. All the actors in this movie are fantastic. And they're all pretty big name actors. We're talking about people like Jessica Christian, James McAvoy, Bill Hader. Where do I know that guy from? Sorry. Isaiah Mufasa. I thought it was Mufasa. That's Mustafa. Jay Ryan, James Randall. All the adult actors playing the grown-up versions of the Losers Club do a really good job. Oh, he was Fear in Inside Out. That's where I know him from. They bring a lot of life, personality, charm, and character to their characters. And when we go back to the kids in the flashbacks, it's the same cast as last time, and they do a great job. In fact, I'm going to kind of talk about this briefly. This is kind of jumping to special effects. They seem to have de-aged the kids digitally. I couldn't tell. But the best part of the whole movie, hands down, Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. I'll admit, clowns aren't scary to me. But Bill Skarsgård is really creepy. And that's just kind of major props to how good his acting is. This guy can be funny, charming, and pants-wettingly terrifying within the span of 3 seconds. He can change on the spot, and it is crazy. Like, he honestly is just that good of an actor in this role. And part of that is helped due to another major strength of this movie, the special effects. Now, the CG has gotten better from the past movie. Some of it is still pretty obviously CG, but all the practical effects, like the makeup and a lot of the gore, is top-notch. And all the creature designs, even if the CG isn't perfect, man, these creature designs are amazing. But I would expect nothing less from Stephen King, who, he's had his ups and downs, but it, definitely one of his very high ups. Literally, if you know what I'm talking about. The creature design in this is just, well, terrifying, like it should be. But it never kind of crosses the line into cartoonishly insane like the original, which works up until the end. The end, it is a bit more like cartoonish action than horror, but it still is tense and very well done. The music, aside from one part of music they used for about 10 seconds that had me scream what is going on out loud, the music is fantastic. Same with the sound design. It can be creepy, eerie, atmospherical, and really make you feel this constant sense of dread that you cannot explain until the jump scares hit. Same with the camera work. This movie is beautifully shot. I loved all the different angles and camera movements they used. They do a lot of like jump cuts and stuff like that, but it seems to work a bit more because it's trying to add to the paranoia, or there's more frequent cuts because it's adding to the fear, to this tension, to all that. So at the end of the day, I can highly recommend It Chapter 2 with one condition. The first movie had a couple gory moments, but it wasn't anything too terrible. It was much more of a jump scare kind of horror movie. This one is super gory. Plus, if you have fear of things like claustrophobia, drowning, spiders, mutilation, child death, clowns, just stay far away from this movie. Trust me, you'll be doing yourself a favor. Also, I cannot recommend this movie to anybody who's like, well, either hasn't seen the first one or is a kid. And believe me, there's probably going to be a bunch of kids who see this movie and end up running out of the theater screaming. I warned you, don't blame me, that has happened before, and yeah, it's just stupid parenting. Overall though, It Chapter 2 gets a solid 3 Raptor claws out of 4. Some of it was just a bit too confusing and not, like they were trying to go over the top, but it came across as a bit more confusing. But at the end of the day, I had an absolute blast watching this movie. It's the most fun I've had being scared in a long time, and I can highly recommend it to horror fans or fans of the original It. So, if you're down for a really spooky, genuinely scary horror film, It Chapter 2's got you covered. And with that being said, that's all the time I got for this review. So until next time, guys, this has been the Media Raptor saying keep cool, and I'll see all you dino dudes around. Later. Also, I didn't make a single yo float joke this entire time. Are you proud of me?